This is part 2 of our episode Positively Creating, featuring Mike and Nicole Pierce, Amanda, David Benjamin, myself, and of course, Chat GPT. If you missed part 1, hop back to COVEpod episode 46 and check it out. But if you're all caught up, let's do this.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is the Carganilla Online Variety Entertainment Podcast. Leading off, your host, Paul Carganilla.
I'll go ahead and read the third bullet point from AI about positively creating. They say positive psychology research. Positive psychology research supports the idea that positive emotions can enhance cognitive flexibility and creativity. Positive states are linked to greater cognitive flexibility, which allows individuals to think more expansively and make connections between seemingly unrelated ideas. This is why AI will never be as good as human brains, because they've made the same point 3 times, right?
Yeah,
So
I noticed that.
The second one sounded very similar to the first point, but okay.
Yeah.
And this one did too. So this is point 3, but it sounds like all the same thing. You have a broader, when you think with a positive mindset, like you're not shut down as easily. You have a broader ability to problem solve.
That's very true.
Is very true.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as we mentioned before, like when you're creating something, just the smallest obstacle doesn't shut you down. All right, well, just like it didn't shut down the Terminator. Terminator 1 or Terminator 2 or Terminator 3.
Or the
AI
TV show,
is just trying to think of as many positive ways we can get around the fact that with your positive attitude, you don't quit with your creative idea or your artistic idea. And it's true.
So it's interesting because we're talking about the repetitiveness of AI, and I was reading something recently or watching something recently. It said that AI basically is really good at essentially maybe analyzing, but kind of summarizing and regurgitating stuff without understanding any of it. AI's got absolutely no clue what it's talking about. It's just able to take all this information in and sort of repackage it and present it back.
That's what I was thinking with the first song of this discussion when you were doing your improv, was like, as valuable as AI might be in certain aspects, it would never be able to do what David's doing right now. And improvising a tune on the piano based on a theme and his creativity and his human spirit. But also, I talked about this, I don't remember where or when, but it was somewhere on Zoom. But I decided to just put in Chat GPT, write me the first scene of a Hallmark romantic comedy where a firefighter falls in love with a pyromaniac. And 3 seconds later, it was like, interior coffee shop. Like it had the whole
burning down.
No, it had the whole script format down. Like there was this barista. She was kind of disheveled. Her name tag was slightly off kilter. This firefighter walks in and he's handsome and he's chiseled and he orders a coffee and she starts flirting with him. And I was like, whoa, like through the whole SAG strike, everyone had been saying how like dangerous AI was going to be to the like creative filmmaking industry. And I didn't believe them, but I started reading this and I was like, oh my God, like I just wrote an AI movie, first scene of a movie, but I didn't write it obviously. And then I kept reading, and then spontaneously a fire breaks out in the alleyway and he's alarmed, but she says, see what I just did? And he's like, so it's like things that could never happen are happening because AI doesn't understand That's
She's
not
also
what.
a wizard.
Yeah.
Right.
Every time AI writes a romantic script, it's always like, okay, it was a coffee shop and a robot barista falls in love with a robot. Here, stick with me here.
Boom. Fire. See that? Ooh.
Every one of your ideas involves robots.
I guess we all just need to be overtaken by robots for the future of Hallmark. Well, but yeah, no, there's obviously that human element that is going to be destroyed when they start dropping fire on us.
Yeah. But I was just really quick. I was watching a Neil deGrasse Tyson Star Talk video earlier today from like a week or two ago, and he was interviewing an engineer who works, I think it was at Carnegie Mellon in the robotics field, and he's working with NASA on designing this snake type of robot. They call it an eel. They came up with this very tortured acronym to get eel out of it. But it's something that they are going to send to Saturn's moon Enceladus, which is thought to have a subsurface ocean underneath miles worth of ice. And the idea is they're going to try and have it find some crevasses or something to where it can work its way down through the ice, get water samples, and then come back up and see if there's any signs of life out there. And this is absolutely something where Saturn at light speed is an hour and a half away. So there's a 3-hour delay between when you tell it to do something and when you get data back. And so it's a perfect application for an AI to operate that robot and autonomously run it and then eventually send data back. So there are really incredible applications.
Okay, fine. I'm just kidding.
But there's also limits. I mean, it's AI in its current iterations is never going to replace human thought. It's not creative in and of itself. All it can do is regurgitate.
Until that's not all it can do.
Until that's not all it can do.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal. I don't know why. I'm just Tenacious D popped into my mind by sending an eel into the crevasse. But speaking of Tenacious D, Mike Pierce.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. One of my favorite bands. Love the D.
Good God. You're going to have to really cut this this
Or
audio.
not. It's so good to see you. So good to have you here.
Yeah, it's so good to see you too.
I invited everybody here to join this conversation with no implication of the theme on whatever song they wanted to perform. What song did you bring for us this evening?
So I'm going to go with something that I wrote.
Nice.
In the spirit of creating, I thought I would go with something that I created. And it's a song when I was writing it, I was kind of thinking like, there's so many songs out there that you don't even really know the words to. You just kind of hear the sounds. And I was kind of had this idea of maybe a big part of songwriting is just the vowels that ring out at the end of each line that's all you kind of hear. And it's like, I kind of think of like Pearl Jam. It's like, I have no idea what he's saying. It's just like these sounds.
That's valid.
And you can listen to a song in a different language and not understand it, but kind of sing along because you can hear the sounds that are being sung. So I got on this kick of like vowels and decided to write a song that each one of the lines ends with different vowel. So it's the Vowel Song.
I can't wait to hear this.
Nor can I. Here is Mike Pierce with the original Vowel Song.
I'm going to step out of the phone.
I
So stay here with me, and I will show you what I need. And sometimes I ask myself why. I ask myself why. So hey, can you see that I want to know you? And sometimes why. Vowel Song.
I'm throwing shoes, but David's throwing shirts and ties. Dude,
Sometimes Y line, man. That was awesome.
Can't forget about sometimes why.
so freaking good, man.
That was amazing.
Are you sure that wasn't a Jack Johnson cover? Because
Yeah, kind of is.
It
It's
has-
like an AI Jack Johnson.
That's hilarious.
I loved that so much.
Yeah, well,
I
thank
meant
you.
to pay you a compliment. Like I could believe that was a Jack Johnson song because, so good, and I loved it.
It sounds like it could be on the Curious George Jack Johnson album, right? I feel like it could be.
Sure.
Yeah, so I guess that really goes with the theme of just like finding different ways of, if there's a problem, coming at it with a different mindset and broadening your perspective to like, what's a different way I can approach writing a song. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's something I always thought that song was just incomplete or way too short. There needed to be something else added to it, and I'd written a few songs during this same time that I just never played for anyone for the longest time because I always thought they were just not done. And then finally, I think a few years ago, I kind of just started like, you know what? It's as done as it's ever going to be. Might as well just play it.
There's something so interesting in that, wanting to perfect it to the point where like you never feel like it's ready to show anybody, so it never sees the light of day. I've had that with scripts that I'm writing, and I encourage my best friend in life to start to show people stuff that she's working on and she doesn't feel like it's quite polished, but it's a delicate thing where it's like, well, this is my baby, this is my idea that I'm creating, and I'll decide when I'm ready to show it to people. But like, it's like, when do you know when it's polished? When do you know when it's ready? And if you just keep chipping away at a statue, you might just make it crumble. And it's
That's an interesting point, because I find, just speaking for myself, that if I show somebody something I'm working on partway through the process, whether it's really early or a ways through, I have an easier time, I think, taking constructive criticism about it. If I've gotten it to the point where I think it's really polished, I really like it, I'm very happy with it, and I show it to somebody and they're like, I'm not going to take that very well. It's going to be much, much harder. So it's an interesting question, and again, up to the individual how to deal with it. But when do you show somebody something, and how is that going to impact how you take any feedback that you receive from them?
And sometimes it's even more frustrating because they'll be like, I liked it better before. And you're like, oh my God.
You're like, what?
I just spent the last 50 hours on this.
Ah,
Yeah.
creativity, it's such a thing.
But yeah,
no,
I find
so
again, speaking for myself, yeah, I oftentimes my creativity will channel different directions at different points in time. So like for a long time, I was into really composing and writing music a lot, and I haven't written anything in a long time. But what I've gotten into, I've moved more into model building for a while, and this, that, and the other. And I've rediscovered Legos, which I'm having an absolute blast with. And you can literally endlessly tinker with these sets. I just put together the big Millennium Falcon sets, like over 7,000 parts. And you can just endlessly tinker and add to them and do stuff with them. And it's amazing. And my creativity will go different directions again in the future. And I don't know what's gonna come. But I find that helps refresh me when if I go back to composing, it's not going to feel like as much of a slog because it'll feel fresher and newer. Than if I hadn't gone off on all these different creative directions.
yeah. At
Cool.
what point do you stop chipping away at the statue? And I feel like with your song, Mike, like if you're like, I think that's it. I'm like, yeah, I think it's good. I mean, you are the songwriter, so the final say comes to you. But I encourage any creator, like if you're like, I think that's it. Like, yeah, that's it. Because what's interesting is there's journeys. Some artistic projects are creative journeys that will span long periods of time, but others are inspired in an instant, like a flash fire. And it's like, done, got it, that's it. And you just got to understand, like, so a lot of the times when I'm creating a creative project, it is a chapter of my life, or it is a snapshot of a portion of a chapter of my life. Like, you got to understand, what am I creating right now? Is it a snapshot? Is it a chapter? Or is it a volume? Or is it the whole greater picture? Like, you got to, like, whatever you're creating, you have to be conscious of what part of your creative process you're trying to express, whether it's that moment or, like I just said, a chapter and beyond. But I think all of this to say, I think that song was perfect, Mike.
Thanks so much.
Me
Yeah.
too.
No, I think what you were saying earlier too was really, I find it so true that it's the trust when you're telling someone. You have to have that trust with someone and know who you're telling or who you're showing what you've created to, and that you can trust them to, be honest with you and give you something back that maybe it's not what you want to hear or whatever, but they're looking out for you. And at the end of the day, I mean, like you said, it's your creation. You don't have to take what someone says and change it just because someone says, but it is good to share it and hear creative, constructive criticism from people, and then take that and see what you end up coming up with. But like you said too, I mean, when do you stop chiseling away at that statue? You could go on forever and ever and always be changing it. And I think with music too, it's a lot easier to do that. Like Jack Johnson, a lot of his songs that when he plays in his live shows sound a lot different than what's on the album. And it's because he's touring with these songs and playing them over and over, and they kind of become something different where it'll be released on the album one way, but after he's been playing it for 10 years, it's still kind of changing after all that time. So that's cool with music, that you can kind of more so do that, where I would think with like a film, once it's out there, what do? You go back and change that. It's a 2-hour work that you put out there.
Not even like with film, but having come from a background at the Disneyland theme parks where we are performing the same show on the same stage 6 or 7 times a day, 5 or 6 days a week. Like, even that, like, you're hired to do that, but your creative brain wants to make changes. You want to evolve it, make it better. But in that role that I was in, like, you can't. And the second you do that, there's people that are hired to tell you you're pushing it. You can't take creative license over it because it's not your work. But I can see how, someone like Jack Johnson, or like obviously any musician that's touring with their music for a certain number of years, their piece that they created would evolve because they're a creative person too, and they're putting it in front of different artists and they're seeing what works and what doesn't. And wow, that's so interesting.
And look at the song Hallelujah. How many different versions of that song are out there? I mean, there's a bazillion different versions of it out there. And it's interesting contrasting all of this with classical music, because the mindset in the classical world so often is, this is the way the composer wrote it. These exact notes, these dynamics, these time signatures, tempos, etc. This is how you play it. Period. End of story. There's a little bit of creative license in there in places, but like when Rachmaninoff rewrote the ending to one of Chopin's sonatas, everybody went nuts. So you don't touch it that way. Mm-hmm. And Rachmaninoff did. I think he made the last movement better with his changes. But still, there's that very stringent mindset that doesn't allow for maybe some more creative license that performers might display if it were otherwise.
Yeah.
Me, the notes are a suggestion to me. So,
well, Chat GPT kind of chimes in on this on their next bullet point, which is motivation and engagement. Positive attitudes can increase motivation and engagement in tasks, including creative endeavors. When people approach challenges with a positive attitude, they are more likely to persevere, experiment, and take risks, all of which are important for creative thinking. So 4 bullet points now pretty much saying the same thing. When you have a positive attitude, when you're creating, you are more apt to persevere and take risks and figure out a better way to solve your creative problem. Creatively solve your problem.
You go.
Is it because AI is limited, or is it because there's only one answer, but they made it in 5 bullet points?
I would go with AI being limited as the primary thing here.
Well, this has all been an experiment so far, but we have made our way to our next musical performance from Miss Nicole Pierce. Nicole, so great to see you. Thank you for being here.
Good to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
And given the theme of bring whatever you want, AI will judge you. No one's judging you. I was just kidding. What tune did you, were you inspired to bring this evening?
Yeah, I did not know, as usual, what to choose. Tried a few different songs in the last 10 minutes before the show started. And then now I'm just like, you know what, I'll do an original because it makes sense. It makes sense to do an original piece. This is one that I wrote a long time ago. I think I was, maybe 18, 19 years old. But I feel like the song is pretty complete, actually, as opposed to all my other songs. Yeah, it's a nice one. It's a love song.
What's it called?
That's a great question. I think I finally ended up calling it For You, but it's also known as the bird song because I mention birds a lot.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, what a treat here on the Vodacity Network. Nicole Pierce original, For You, or the bird song.
Take me to a place I've never been, never seen. Oh, it's my dream. Sing to me a song I have not heard, with lots of words. It's not absurd. You and I, we belong together like a bird and all its feathers. Just say you'll agree that you belong to me, and I'll say, like a flightless bird that longs to fly, I long to be with you tonight. It might be our last time, and I'll sing all the songs I wrote, words and tunes. Although they're few, they're all for you. Yeah, you. Show me a love I've never felt before, never dreamt of before, never thought it could exist. Look at me with those eyes, those big brown eyes. I'll dream of them forever. You and I, we belong together like a bird and all its feathers. Just say you'll agree that you belong to me, and I'll say, like a flightless bird that longs to fly, I long to be with you tonight. It might be our last time, and I'll sing all the songs I wrote, words and tunes. Although they're few, they're all for you. Yeah, you and me, you make me so happy. You and I, we belong together like a bird and all its feathers. Just say you'll agree that you belong to me, and I'll say, like a flightless bird that longs to fly, I long to be with you tonight. It might be our last time, and I'll sing all the songs I wrote, words and tunes. Although they're few, they're still for you. Yeah, you. Oh.
Throwing hearts. There's my shoes. My shoes made it to David's
It
house.
hit me instead. Oh well. What are you gonna do?
I gotta update my Zoom. I loved that song so much.
Aw. Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you so much.
I love that everybody on the show tonight has done something that they've created. I mean, it's just, you guys have just been amazing. It's just so inspiring. It's so cool.
You too.
Same
You
to
too,
you.
friend.
He literally just lifted those words from my mouth. I was just about to say
They were in one of the shoes you threw, Paul. That's how
I posited this theme of positively creating, and everybody brought something they created, and holy buckets, I love that so much. We'll have a quick conversation before we close out the episode, but I got to get to the 5th AI bullet point, which finally kind of strays away from the theme they've been giving us for the first 4, which is stress and creativity. They say a positive attitude can also mitigate the negative effects of stress on creativity. High stress levels can impair cognitive functioning and reduce creative output. Maintaining a positive attitude can help manage stress and maintain a creative mindset. Kind of tied into how David was saying, you know, when you get bogged down with work, like you stop doing, you're playing your instruments or stop doing your creative stuff, how stress and work can cut into that part of our lives. But
so true.
I'm just gonna kind of do a 2-second glimpse at this, like the reason why this theme kind of popped up to me and inspired the theme for this episode was I had an experience recently where I was very positively motivated to do something creative, and I had an idea and I presented it to someone, and they were like, yeah, no, that's and I was like, wow. I was kind of taken aback because I'm so used to surrounding myself with people who are like, and don't bother trying to guess who this is. Nobody on this network knows anything about this person or this situation. I'm just speaking in generalities, but I was taken aback because I surround myself with people who are like like-minded, like everybody here who's listening. Yes, encourage each other, do these things and take these steps and these chances. And so it confused me to the core, but I kind of was like, should I stop? Am I on the wrong path? And I apologize for being so vague, but I have to be. And then I started kind of doing my research on the person that I was talking to, and found, you know, several things about them that I could see would motivate their response to me in that way. And I totally understood it. I totally could see where they were coming from. Didn't affect my impression of them or my regards to them or my respect for them in any way, but just informed me. Everyone's coming from different points of view. Everyone's coming from different backgrounds, different cultures, and everybody sees every situation in different ways. But if we don't come at creativity from a standpoint like AI says that lets us creatively problem solve or leads us to broader thinking, if we completely put our thoughts and our inspiration in someone else's hands, and there's an obstacle that's laid out or any red flag that comes up causes us to step back and stop, I think that is an opportunity for us to explore why. And it kind of just makes sense that any creator that is coming from a good place, a positive place, doing it because they're passionate about it, following their heart's fire, is motivated to solve problems and is more likely to solve problems, that makes a lot of sense. And this, I mean, I guess the whole theme is, if you're inspired to do something, do it. Find your way around any problems. Hear what the naysayers say and creatively problem solve. But never, ever ignore that fire burning inside you. Never ignore that creative light that is leading you down a certain path. Life gets crazy. Life gets frustrating. Life can get stressful, busy, but we get past those busy and stressful parts, and then we're back here on the path, and the light is still there. Do not give other people the power to snuff that light out. Listen to your heart. Follow your inspiration. Keep it going and positively create. That's all I wanted to say.
Preach.
AI closes by saying, overall, while creativity is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon influenced by many factors, a positive attitude is certainly beneficial for fostering an environment where creativity can thrive. See, they said it in one sentence, and I took like 5 minutes to just spit out my word spaghetti in my head. But so maybe that's why AI is here, to cut down the time where Paul's talking from his head, and you can just spit it out.
No. That was so well said, what you said. It was like church. It was therapy. And it made me just feel so blessed to know you, or know of you, but then know you in a more intimate level. Like, you're such a close friend of ours, and we're so lucky to have you inspire us all the time. So thank you, Paul.
You inspire me all the time. And every time you guys show up for these things and I say, hey, guys, want to get together and make some stuff and hang out and play some music? And you guys are like, yeah,
we got where and when.
We got lives and babies and businesses and families and work. But yes, we talked about COVID being like the ultimate problem that we solved. No, we didn't solve COVID. Let me just tell everybody,
we didn't solve it.
We didn't solve COVID. But this issue of like togetherness and performing and just being able to foster creativity in a time of obstacles. And I'm just so grateful. We say it all the time, but I'm so grateful for everybody here on the network, everybody that we've met along the way. And none of it would happen if people didn't say yes and open their hearts and minds and lives to the Vaudacity Network, and just all of the friends that we've made here along the way.
It's been an amazing ride with the Vaudacity Network. I'm so happy to be part of this and to know everyone here and to continue doing these shows.
And I'm very happy I took the opportunity when Amanda first joined up and started doing shows. And Paul, I think we went over to your house at one point to get a microphone from you. It was, a bit better than the ones we've been using. And I kind of like, well, I play piano. And you're like, come on the show. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'll look at you.
So glad that I did that. It's just been such an incredible experience, and I never would have known all these amazing folks without it. It's just amazing. You guys are awesome.
Y'all are awesome. Everybody out there, we love you. Mike, Nicole, Amanda, David. Craig, I know you're here in spirit. He wanted to be here so bad, and he would have been perfect for this conversation as well. We love you, Craig Jackman. Thank you so much, as always, for spending your time with us here on COVEpod. We appreciate you. And as always, it helps our podcast if you would please leave a positive review wherever you're listening. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. As an independent podcast, every bit of support definitely helps us spread the word. And if you'd like to help support the podcast financially, head over to patreon.com/COVEpodcast and see what we're doing over there. You can get monthly bonus episodes, shout outs, your name in the credits. There's a bunch of perks for being a backer, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.